The demand for electricity has placed severe strain on the national grid, forcing Eskom to burn large amounts of diesel. Eskom has urged the public to assist by switching off heaters, geysers and other appliances in order to alleviate the pressure on the grid. How can you and I keep ourselves and our families warm whilst also saving money and take pressure off the national grid? For that, I'm joined by an expert in this area, Barry Bredenkamp, who's General Manager of Energy Efficiency at the South African National Energy Development Institute. Now, he says with minor adjustments, we can handle the winter cold while also saving time. Barry, it sounds too good to be true. Where do we even start? Thanks for your time.
Good morning, and all the viewers. Yes, I think we have to. We often only hear the reference in sports again back to basics, and I think when it comes to energy efficiency and the current situation we're in, we need to go back to basics. One of the very simple things to do is dress warmly. We dress warmly, we use less heating. We don't seem to think of that, but the less heating we use, the less load there is on the grid, because heating is one of the biggest contributors, obviously, now in winter. So put on a scarf, put on a jacket. We have to wear masks now. The mask covers our face. And generally, then we have less of a need for artificial heating, so by saving that. There are also things, Eskom asks us to switch off our geysers, pool pumps and so on. We can install a solar water heater. Solar water heaters do work in winter, contrary to popular belief. They're relatively cheap. If you have a solar water heater, you're heating it up during the day and warming your water, and it usually would stay warm throughout the night if it has the proper insulation. So you don't then have to switch off your geyser, because you will still have hot water. And then there's a couple of other basic things like insulating your home, making sure the cracks and leaks in your doors and windows are properly sealed, and you can do that with tape. You don't have to invest lots of money to do that. You can do that quite simply. Up to 30% of the warm air escapes out of our house through our doors and windows. If we can stop that, once again, we have less need for artificial heating, and then we save money in the process.
Yeah. Those, I guess, whilst well taken, sound like, I guess, interventions that might be implemented in certain homes, and I'm thinking middle-class homes. For instance, I drive through Alex every day on my way to work and every evening after work, and one thing you'll see almost every evening are fires that are started, especially outside the house because of the dangers within the home. Are there strategies for people in those communities, who don't have the luxury, for instance, of being able to, I guess, insulate their homes effectively because of how the house is built to begin with?
Yes, that is a serious problem, and unfortunately those types of houses, they become hot boxes in summer, and they become freezer boxes in winter. Basic insulation in those houses as well. So putting in a cardboard or any low-cost ceiling will insulate the roof, first of all, and then once again the windows and doors should be sealed with any material, anything just to stop the leaking. We do also advocate there's a low-cost intervention such as what we call cool surfaces, a type of paint that you put on those types of houses. So if you're talking about a corrugated type structure or even a different building material, you use this cool coating, which is similar to a paint, but it has insulation properties that will keep the home warm in winter and cool in summer. That is a low-cost intervention. And then by all accounts, people should avoid making fires. And if you are going to use a heating device, is to avoid using older devices. What inevitably happens, the older the technology, the more electricity consumption it actually incurs. So to try and use smaller devices and more modern devices, which then leads to energy savings and at the end of the day, cost savings.
Perhaps we should take a step back. The South African National Energy Development Institute, that might be new for some South Africans. Tell us what you do.
Yes, we are an agency of the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. We look after the implementation and research and development of energy efficiency and renewable energy interventions. We look at all energy carriers, excluding nuclear. We don't deal with nuclear. And one of the areas that we focus on is advocacy in the area of energy efficiency and renewable energy, and trying to assist where possible, because at the end of the day, the more energy we save, the more energy is freed up to meet the demand in the evenings and in the early mornings that we're seeing right now with the current load shedding situation.
And at a household level, generally speaking, are South Africans efficient in their use of electricity?
I think we've definitely seen, as a result of the tremendously high tariffs that we're paying now and the increasing tariffs, and we'll be getting in municipal areas tariff increases as of the 1st of this month. I think that is sending out a price signal, but there's still a long way to go. There's lots of things we can do in terms of being energy efficient. One of the things is the options is going off grid completely. That we recommend people do that in stages. You can go partially off grid, where you actually have a set of batteries and inverter, and that you can allow the batteries to charge when you do have power, and then when we have load shedding, you can actually run your lights and your television and a couple of basic appliances, and then you can go completely off grid, which is the Rolls Royce. If you can afford it, and then you're looking at an investment cost of about 200,000 rand, and then you can be completely off the grid permanently and not rely on your municipal or electricity supply to operate all your appliances.
And that's the issue, isn't it? I guess that's where the debate where the fire is sparked, so to speak. The issue around affordability. Going off the grid sounds to me like an issue divided across class lines, especially in a country like South Africa.
Yes, it definitely is a cost issue, and that's why we would recommend, starting in phases. It's like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So our recommendation is, first of all, you become energy efficient. So the more efficient you are, the less demand you have for the size of the battery that you have to install. So the less you're using, the smaller the battery. If you're inefficient and you're using lots of appliances, then you need larger batteries to cater for those moments when you don't have power. So number one, become as energy efficient as possible. Secondly, install a small inverter and a small battery, which is you can do that for under 5,000 Rand. That will get you through a 2-hour load shedding period if you're just operating your lights and essential appliances like televisions and so on. Then you progress. As you move on, you can add another battery to that to allow for 4 hours of no electricity as opposed to 2 hours. And you slowly build on, because these are plug-and-play systems. You slowly, over a period of time, as cash becomes available, start building on this until you get to the stage where you can install a PV panel on your roof and charge those batteries with PV as opposed to electricity when the electricity is on. And then you actually then become an off-grid consumer and then totally self-sustainable.
Barry, before we let you go, I mean, we can't do anything about the weather and the icy conditions we're in, but we certainly can try to protect ourselves from that, even during the rolling power cuts. I'm interested how best we could do that with children, though. A lot of the stuff you've mentioned need a good amount of discipline, an understanding of why you're doing it, and therefore, I guess, making the certain adjustments to your own life. Children, in some respects, don't have the capacity to understand all these things. So how do we keep them safe and warm during these periods?
Yes, I think safety is also very key there. A lot of the devices and fireplaces and the open flame heating sources we use are a hazard and do cause fires, and we see that happening throughout the country, especially in shack areas. Once you have one fire, it spreads like wildfire across the whole community. So one must make sure that if you are using a heating device, that it is an element type device and a very small device that if it falls over, it doesn't cause a fire. But once again, I would say the best, easiest, cheapest, most simple option is to keep those kids dressed warmly, make sure that they have the proper clothing on, because kids want to go outdoors and they want to play. And if they dress correctly, they will stay warm, and that also has a health benefit at the end of the day. It avoids getting colds and picking up other sicknesses.
Barry Bredenkamp is an Energy Efficiency General Manager with the South African National Energy Development Institute. Thanks very much for your time and for those tips. Hopefully, they certainly go a long way. I certainly appreciate your time.